David with Gerald Flurry.
There is a lot of turmoil in this world, many distractions, and we don't often focus on what we should be taking notice of. But there was an event that just happened in the little island of Cyprus, and Germany is very much involved in that. Cyprus is going to be, we believe, a very significant, or play a very significant role in the near future, and is really going to be probably the little island from which World War III will be triggered. Now, that is according to Bible prophecies. That might seem strange, but then on the other hand, there have been several crusades launched from the little island of Cyprus. And why is this little island so important to Germany, a nation who has started 2 world wars and now have Cyprus in absolute bondage to their country? How did that happen? After Germany was so completely destroyed after World War II, how have they regained such power in Europe today? How did it all happen? Well, the European Union now has 27 presidents or kings, and it's going to be reduced to 10 very shortly. But Cyprus is going to be a part of that 10 nations which will comprise the Holy Roman Empire, and it's almost there for everybody to see already. And of course, the Holy Roman Empire has a very bloody future if you know anything about history. But think about this. The little nation of Cyprus is a powerful watchpost for anybody who has that little island and wants to survey what's going on in the Middle East. And Germany and Rome certainly do want to do that. They want to watch that very closely. This is the beginning, really, of one of the greatest military missions in this end time. And it's something that everybody ought to be taking note of, and we've been talking about it for many years. But not too many people seem interested. But there was a recent election in Cyprus, and they have allied themselves with Germany. I also want to mention some little history about Cyprus. Some 30 years ago, the president of Cyprus invited a religious leader in, and this religious leader gave him a mysterious message that he was moved by, and we think it has great significance even for today. And I'll give you more on that in a few moments, but let me give you just a little background on what just happened in Cyprus. They needed a bailout, like most other nations in Europe, and like the U.S. and the U.K. and many other countries. But the candidate who won was allied himself with German Chancellor Angela Merkel, and he won by a landslide. That's something to take note of, because they won like 57.5% of the vote, and Angela Merkel stood strongly behind this man, and he won the election by a landslide. Now let me read you something here that happened not too long ago, and it will show you some of the tension there in that little island, because, well, Iran also is taking note of what's going on there, much more so than the United States. Notice what we wrote in thetrumpet.com, August 2nd, 2012. The recent capture of a suspected Hezbollah terrorist acting on behalf of Iran in the Cypriot capital Nicosia further fans the flames of regional tensions and underscores the geopolitical importance of this nation for various national groups and as a bridge to Jerusalem. Well, we keep hearing Jerusalem. Everybody wants to conquer Jerusalem. Certainly Europe wants to get control of it, and Iran and the radical Islamic movement wants to get control of it. But let me read to you about this strange event 30 years ago. Here's what we wrote about that. The current leadership in Cyprus is probably unaware that 30 years ago, in a stunning 1980s World Tomorrow television program recorded shortly after visiting Cyprus, Herbert W. Armstrong told his millions of viewers worldwide why he was continuing to meet with heads of state. Now, here is a religious leader that went there and did a TV program with the president of Cyprus and heard a message more astounding than any he'd ever heard in his life. It was not only an inspiring, uplifting message, but it was also a warning in many ways. A warning that Mr. Armstrong gave to a multitude of leaders during his life, and he met with many heads of state. But why was he even there? When you think about it, why was a religious leader there meeting with a head of state? Why was he invited? Why did that leader of Cyprus want to have him there? And he did. Let me read to you a little more about what we wrote about this in this article. Mr. Armstrong was so stirred by the Cyprus trip that he devoted his entire television program to identifying the importance of the visit and sharing the reaction of perhaps one of the most astonished heads of state in the Matthew 24:14 gospel. So he actually went there and he talked to him about the gospel being preached around the world, and then shall the end come. And that's what Mr. Armstrong talked to him about. What a message to discuss with a head of state. And yet Mr. Armstrong did it with most of the leaders, the leading leaders anyhow, the top leaders of the world in the last few years of his life. In a private meeting in Nicosia, acting president Georgios Laudas greeted Herbert Armstrong, stating, "It was very kind of you to come and see me." At the outset of the meeting, Mr. Armstrong spoke of the current troubles facing the Cypriot nation, noting it all goes back to the roots of civilization, the very roots of civilization. He talked about this, the 6,000 years of man and always seeking to get and not to give. What is wrong with man? Why do they always want to get instead of give the way God does? God's always giving. But notice what we wrote. Discussion then centered upon the biblically prophesied seventh resurrection of the medieval Holy Roman Empire, combining both church and state in Europe, dominating the world. Well, now that was quite a message to deliver to this head of state. What a warning it was about, is Cyprus going to be a part of that? Well, I think Mr. Armstrong thought they were, and they are today. And that Holy Roman Empire is almost completed. So here's what Mr. Armstrong said. And remember, the Holy Roman Empire is going to be the dominant power in the world shortly. That's according to Bible prophecy. And certainly in the Western world. After all, they have a strong currency, while the U.S. and the U.K. have currencies that are, very, very weak. And perhaps that's putting it mildly.
I tell you, the God of all of our religions is going to step in supernaturally, by supernatural power, and is going to shake up this world, and is going to bring about such a condition that he's going to change the nature in us.
He's going to change our nature so that we'll get rid of human nature and the get way of life. Everybody wanting to take from somebody else. And it's a system that can never work. It never has, it never will work. Well, That was some message to deliver to a head of state, and yet Mr. Armstrong did it to many of them, before many of them. And if you want to be even more astounded by the message, he also explained to that head of state, Mr. Lottis, about the fallen angel Lucifer, who was at one time very obedient to God, but he rebelled against God and developed a rebellious nature, a hateful nature in himself. And he's now the god of this world, 2 Corinthians 4 and verse 4. And he is the one that is permeating this world with that get attitude, just filling the minds of people with his spirit, not God's. See, God is going to change this world and fill it with his spirit and not the spirit of the devil. That's what's wrong with this world, and that's all that's wrong with it. But that's a pretty big problem. God is about to change all that, and that's a wonderful, wonderful message to deliver, and it's one that we deliver, and it's so exciting that it ought to just make all of us ecstatic. It really ought to do that. You see, that fallen archangels also took 1/3 of God's angels with them, and now all of them are confined to this earth since 1986, and we've explained that before. And before that time, they were not confined to this earth, and they had a certain rule, even a twisted rule, even out in the universe, but they don't have that anymore. And they're now confined to this earth, and they are full of wrath. Revelation 12 and verse 12 says, because they know that their time is short. Christ is about to return, and he's going to change the nature of man. Notice what it says here in this article. Thank you very much for telling me all these things, the leader of Cyprus said. Thank you very much for telling me all these things I knew nothing about. This is quite different aspect of the problems of the world, purely religious, which, as a matter of fact, I never thought about it. It is something entirely new. That aspect which you put before me today here is something new for me, but I will have it in my mind and I will give it much thought, to which Mr. Armstrong responded by thanking the acting president. And Mr. Lados actually asked for additional material, and Mr. Armstrong sent him a copy of his booklet, Never Before Understood Why Humanity Cannot Solve Its Evils. This world cannot solve its evils. That's what they have to come to see by suffering. And Mr. Armstrong also gave him a copy of his correspondence course at the time. We have that same correspondence course today, 36 lessons. And we had to fight a 6-year battle in court to win that correspondence course authored by Mr. Armstrong and those that helped him and worked with him. And you can get it for absolutely nothing. And if you want to make sure you're not deceived about the Bible, you need to request this Bible correspondence course, and we'll send you lessons so that you can do a lesson and then return the test and another and another and another, and you will understand your Bible as never before and as nothing else could teach you. I'm telling you, it's the truth. And it's filled with truth. Well, Mr. Armstrong had over 50,000 students that studied that correspondence course and took it, and they learned so much about the Bible. Now then, the leader today, Anastasius, I believe that's pronounced, still has a tough job ahead of him. Cyprus needs a bailout of 17 billion euro. That's about 22 billion US. Cyprus is a vital strategic location, and Germany's leadership may be excited about snapping it up for a bargain basement price. Now, why would Germany want Cyprus? Why would they invest so much in Cyprus, even though the people in Germany are against it? Notice this, and that may have consequences that also fulfill another great prophecy in your Bible. It's coming soon and probably this year. A world leader is going to come on the scene that's going to shock the entire world. And he will rule over what is known and will be known as the Holy Roman Empire. But notice this, the article we wrote here, the trumpet.com, 63% of those surveyed in a poll released a few days ago were against bailing out Cyprus. Only 16% were for it. 60% said it was something very important or important when it came to selecting Germany's next chancellor. Wow. Well, that could have an influence on the election this autumn. That Angela Merkel will have to be running again to gain that office another time. But is there going to be another leader? We believe strongly that there is. Out of all the turmoil of the election will come a strong leader who's prophesied in Daniel 8 to do some very powerful things in the world. That's what your Bible teaches in about 100 prophecies in your Bible. And yet religious leaders today know almost nothing about that. Why? Why not? Well, this article says this makes it a tricky situation for Merkel, who is up for election in the autumn. Yes, indeed. And what is going to come of all of this? Germany, who started 2 world wars, is now has the little nation of Cyprus in bondage, and it has to obey Germany's parliament. And if they keep getting this bailout one installment at a time, they have to get the German parliament's approval on each installment. Now, how about that for taking over a country without military force? Without military force. Another comment from trumpet.com, June 2nd, 2010. Cyprus, an EU member nation, has been pivotal in geopolitics for millennia. Well, of course, it's always been a great nation to plan your strategy around. Right there in the Mediterranean Sea, that great sea in that part of the world. It continues to be of great importance for a variety of strategic reasons to the European Union as a base for the future projection of European power into the Holy Land, the Middle East, and the Persian Gulf. Both Rome and Berlin, the main drivers behind the EU expansionist vision, understand the vital geostrategic position of Cyprus as a Christian military outpost and the key sea gate within the Islamic Middle East arena. Well, what do you know? We have some people there that really do plan their military strategy. That's something you don't hear much about in the U.S. or the U.K. or even in the little Jewish nation in the Middle East. See, again, what's happening here is the radical Islamic movement is doing everything they can to get control of Jerusalem, which is one of their most holy sites. But Europe also, the Holy Roman Empire also wants to get control of Jerusalem. It's the crusade all over again. And to the Holy Roman Empire, Jerusalem is a very holy site. Perhaps the most holy they have. Certainly one of the most holy sites. But this article says, as an EU member nation, Cyprus offers key forward geostrategic military base and a virtual island aircraft carrier for these coming missions. Due to the proximity of Cyprus to the whole Middle East region, European fighter jets can very easily cover much of the region without refueling. Now you can see why this is important, because as it says there in Daniel 11 and verse 40, as we've said so many times, the king of the north and the king of the south are going to clash. The king of the south, that is led by Iran, is going to push at Europe, led by Germany, and Germany is going to come against them like a whirlwind and destroy them. But that's not going to end their path of destruction. It's going to go much further than that, and you need to understand where it's going from there. And our book on the United States and Britain and prophecy will explain that to you if you don't have it. One more quote here. The geostrategic position of Cyprus, located at the crossroads to the Aegean and Mediterranean seas and Suez, possessing good seaports, notice this, possessing good seaports, airports, and radar surveillance systems to survey the skies across the Middle East, Persian Gulf, and North Africa, makes it a great watching post over all the Middle East Islam. Whoa, what is happening here? What is about to happen there? Well, Daniel 11 and verse 40 is about to be fulfilled there. Well, it'll be fought initially from there, we believe, and I think it's pretty obvious that that's the way everything is going right now. This is going to be the final crusade to take Jerusalem, the final one. And then Jesus Christ is going to return, and He's going to establish His headquarters in Jerusalem, and He's going to begin to change the nature of all humanity and bring us the peace and joy we should have had throughout our history, but we have never had it. And I'll just one little aside here. Hugo Chavez just died, and he wasn't a good friend of the U.S., but his country has the fourth greatest amount of oil in the world, and America thinks now this is going to be good for them, that he has died, and maybe they'll get a better leader. But let me tell you, this is not going to be good for America or for Britain or for the Jews in the Middle East, because this Latin American power throughout the power throughout the South America and Central America is going to ally itself with who? Why Germany and the Holy Roman Empire. And we've been speaking that to this world for over 60 years. And it's all prophesied in your Bible. It isn't something we have to guess about. Latin America is going to become our enemy as well. Now, you can prove that from your Bible, but if you'd like to know more about Cyprus, why I have a video that you can receive. It's Cyprus surrenders to Germany. If you want more background on this amazing subject, and it is prophecy being fulfilled right before your eyes. And I'm not talking about insignificant prophecy. I'm talking about prophecy that everybody in this world needs to understand, and certainly the leaders of the world need to understand. And that's why Mr. Armstrong was there in Cyprus. And that's why all of the world leaders need to be warned about what's coming, whether they believe it or not, because it all is about to explode on the world scene, and then Jesus Christ is going to return and bring us the happiness and joy that is going to last forever and ever.
Will events in Cyprus affect your life? This island nation lies in the Mediterranean Sea. It's home to only 1.1 million inhabitants, and it's rarely reported on in the news. But Cyprus is about to become the staging ground for one of the greatest invasions in world history. This island is a strategic launching point into the Middle East. Europe and Russia both want control of Cyprus, and when war breaks out between the great powers, a gigantic army will target the Holy Land via Cyprus. How can you know? Because this future news has already been reported in advance. Our free booklet will take you through the volatile history of this vital region. It'll guide you through the histories of battling empires. It'll transport you back to the 6th century BC and show you 4 centuries of crucial ancient history. But the incredible aspect of this booklet is this: it relies on the Bible, and the Bible predicted the events of the great Persian and Greek empires before they happened. The book of Daniel forecasted these events in detail, 400 years ahead of time. Request this free 17-page booklet and let it guide you through Daniel 10, 11, and 12. See how the Bible predicted the future and how it came to pass. Yet even more incredible is what this means for today. The prophetic range of the book of Daniel isn't limited to 400 years or even 800 years. It extends all the way to the 21st century. It forecasts what's about to happen in the Middle East in your lifetime. Prove this forecast from your own Bible and from your own headlines. Request History and Prophecy of the Middle East. Also request Gerald Flurry's free pamphlet that focuses specifically on the island of Cyprus. Cyprus in Prophecy transcribes Gerald Flurry's analysis of the Cyprus bailout in 2013. It looks at the actions of European Union leaders, as well as their motives for bailing out Cyprus and what Europe hopes to accomplish in return. This pamphlet also examines the political and economic battle over Cyprus that's being waged between Europe and Russia. The Bible forecasted the future in the first millennium BC and in the new millennium AD. Find out if the Bible is right and what that means for you. Be sure to also request the Philadelphia Trumpet News Magazine. The Trumpet brings you monthly news that other news media overlook. It takes you straight to the world's most important news and analyzes the facts and the latest developments in close detail. Our newest issue examines the strongmen of the world: Vladimir Putin, Ali Khamenei, and Xi Jinping. And the Trumpet asks, where is Europe's strongman? The Key of David and the Trumpet have been forecasting the rise of a European strongman for years. Now other analysts are asking if Europe's leadership is about to fold, or if it will rise to the challenge. Your subscription to the Trumpet is already paid. Like all Key of David literature, it comes to you at no cost or obligation. Subscribe right now. You can subscribe instantly at thetrumpet.com. Visit our website for daily updates, a full literature library, magazine archives, a weekly digest, and much more. Log on to thetrumpet.com.